Hi everyone, I am Rebecca from ChemKnits, and here in my 12-quart pot I have 24 cups of water. And I'm going to start by just adding 3 tablespoons of white vinegar. Today we are going to do some space dyeing using 3 primary colors, and like my more recent anticipation colorway, I'm going to add the colors and we aren't going to know what's happening beneath the surface. The colors will be here, they will combine in ways that are mysterious, and we may love the colorway or we might not. And if we don't, well, I can always over dye it. So let's jump on in. Before we get into the dyeing, and the anticipation is getting to me, I would like to give a huge thank you and shout out to today's Dyepot Weekly lab partner, Ina. Ina, thank you so much for being my lab partner today, and I hope you're going to be just excited as I am to move the yarn in the pot and see what we ended up with. Today, we are going to dye 300 grams of Knit Picks Stroll Fingering Weight yarn. This yarn is 75% superwash merino, 25% nylon, and it has been pre-soaking for about 30 minutes in plain tap water with no vinegar. If you would like to learn more about any of the tools or equipment I use in these videos, you can find affiliate links down in the video description. Today we are going to be playing with Jacauard True Turquoise, Hot Fuchsia, and Bright Yellow. Each of these are 1% stock solutions, which I made less than a month ago. And we will make sure to shake them up really thoroughly before we use them. And a quick reminder, a 1% stock solution means that there is 1 gram of dye dissolved in 100 milliliters of water. So we can calculate the number of grams of dye that I'm adding to the pot based on the volume of each of these dyes that we use. Typically, a good starting point for colors is a 1% depth of shade or 1 gram of dye per 100 grams of yarn. So today, I think that we will use a total of 300 milliliters of color or 3 grams of dye or less for our 300 grams of yarn. But we can always modify this more as we go along. It's always just a great place to start for a good saturated color. I squeezed out a lot of the water from the pre-soak, not because I think that that is needed, just because it's a little easier to handle. And I do want to bring some amount of twist into the yarn. And I'm gonna let it sort of fluff up and spread out a little bit in here. The reason why I have it a little twisted is that if I didn't twist the yarn at all going into here, then one skein might be on top and one might be on the bottom, which is something that could be fun for a future video. But that isn't quite what we're going for right now. So I have it twisted so that way, even though each of the 3 skeins won't be identical, there will be more similarities than differences between them. And now I'm going to turn on the stove and heat things up. Yes, because I think I want it to be hot before we add our first color. We are not yet at a simmer, but it's warm, things are getting a little steamy. Let's add some dye. All right, I'm coming in with 100 milliliters of our bright yellow, and I am going to pour it down the middle, and you can see that there's not a lot of control that I have with the graduated cylinder. So that is our yellow. Now I am coming in with 100 milliliters of hot fuchsia. And wow, that yellow has actually spread out a lot. Now remember from my triangle exercise that the pink, the hot fuchsia, and the blue, our true turquoise, are significantly more intense color-wise than the yellow. So I'm expecting the pink and the blue, and we can watch it really spread, especially like down here, because it didn't hit the yarn first. It's going to move through the pan. But the pink is potentially going to completely overwhelm the yellow, and then the blue probably will as well. Now with our blue, which I want to add down here, I think I probably should have added maybe started with less water. I did not check to see exactly what I did with regard to anticipation, but these colors are spreading a lot. However, when I did anticipation, the colors, I think I did a gray, a black, and a purple. So the colors absolutely spread, and some of those have some very similar notes to one another. So it's hard to say for sure what is happening beneath the surface, but we will see. It has been 5 minutes and oh, this is amazing. So I see a lot of bright blue. I see some like cool pinky purples, some little pops of orange and yellow. This is so bird-like. I'm sure it's gonna mostly be green, but if it's mostly green with these hints, that'll be wonderful and amazing. I am not gonna touch it. Even though we have like a pastel white-ish spot right there, I am still not gonna touch it. Not gonna touch it. There, we might end up losing some of this beautiful coloration that we see. Oh, acid, acid. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and a little bit more. I was like, oh, things might spread more. We had low acid, so things could start striking right away. But I see what looks like some color over there by the edge, and I'm like, oh my gosh, things might keep spreading and combining more. Let's add a lot more acid, because then we're more likely for things to keep some of this magic than we have happening in this pot. And oh, I hope we keep this magic. I really like it. It is so cool. Too bad it's 3 skeins of yarn, because like this cool color right here might just be on 1. This might be on 2. I don't know. There's gonna be differences. It's gonna be really fun. I am really excited. I'm now gonna reduce the heat to like a lower temperature because we're seeing some bubbles. And I'm gonna set a timer, I think for 15 minutes. 15 minutes later, and I'm not seeing huge differences. There is still some pink down there. I'm not seeing much color anywhere else. I'm being very careful. There's still residual pink, but most of the other color has absorbed. So I think what I'm going to do is leave the heat on for 10 more minutes, then turn it off and let the yarn cool completely here in the pan. It is now time to take the yarn out of the pot, and ooh, I see yellow. Oh man. Okay. Let's see. Ooh, I see a lot of blue and green, lots of pink and purple with some hints of orange, some white on all 3, and then a little more yellow. Oh, pretty. There is some pink runoff here, but this is what I've seen with this color before. So let me remove the dye pot, and now we can start washing the yarn. This is so cool, and not entirely what I expected, but it does feel extremely bird-like. So, I mean, okay, let me come back. There's lots of deep greens in here, which I did expect, and there's some pops of brightness. I don't think I expected as much of the like bright pink or a little bit of white. I love it. I love it. I absolutely love it. Let's add some soap. We will see some pink runoff. We know that just because of what we saw in the pot. I mean, I suppose we might not, but actually, not really. There's a lot of pigment in here, and aha. There we go. I see some pink come off. I was gonna say, I was like, there should still be some in here. So I'm gonna go ahead and rinse this a handful of times, and then I'll come back. All right, let's see. Our water is now clear. So I'm gonna put the yarn through my Nina soft spin dryer and then hang it up to dry so we can come back for some conclusions. Here is our bird-like rainbow yarn. I don't know why I think of colors that have brights and more muted elements as very bird-like, but it says that to me. I would say there are elements of all of these mixtured colors in the yarn in all of the cases. We see some of this golden yellow, maybe not bright yellow in all of them, certainly bright pink, a deep teals and greens, some pastel pinks, but yeah, the coverage, it seems to be pretty similar. Granted though, these skeins are not identical. Flashing this up, they are not identical. They were dyed together, but if you are going to, say, use this on a sweater, you would probably see a difference as you switch to different skeins, or even within one skein. The colorway is not going to be consistent all the way through necessarily. But honestly, that's part of the fun of a variegated yarn, is seeing how it evolves when you use it. But if you wanted to use all three in one project, I recommend alternating skeins every couple of rounds, making sure to blend it together. Taking a closer look at one of the skeins, you can see what I mean if you look, say, at this yellow. There's tiny bits of yellow here, but on this part of the skein, it is bigger. And if we flip it, that changes. And so each time you go around the yarn, you're going to see differences. And same here with this section of bright pink, it'll be paler on one section. Now, how that corresponds to the skein, I don't know if, say, the beginning is here and then the end is down there exactly, but that just means that there will be some randomness to it, but I think it's a wild and super happy yarn. These colors are so fun. Now, you might be wondering, why did this not all combine to a brown? And that has to do with the proportions of the different colors. I have not mixed these three at a 1:1:1 ratio, but when mixed at various 2:1 ratios, these three colors mix together to form these greenish hues right here. So it really has to do with proportion. I think that if the potency of each of the colors were equivalent, then if you combine them all, you should get something very gray or maybe brownish. But because some of the colors, in this case I think the blue, really dominates everything, that's why we still have a lot of vibrant tones in here. And it doesn't feel muddy, but in some places where the three colors combined, it does feel a little more muted. I suppose you could call that muddy. I don't know. I don't have good words to talk about colors. Ina, thank you so much for being my lab partner today. I love the way the yarn turned out. It's not quite how I thought it would turn out, but that's part of the fun of this technique. You don't know quite what you're gonna get, and I think that what we got is beautiful. So Ina, thank you again so much for being my lab partner. If you would like to learn more about how you as a viewer could become a lab partner, get shout outs and some yarn from an episode of Dyepot Weekly, there's two different ways that you can do this, either signing up before I've started filming, or you can become a more last minute lab partner and sign up after I've started filming, and then I'll film some last minute shout outs for you. You can find details over in the ChemKnits Creations Etsy shop. And yeah, Ina, thank you so much again. I am Rebecca from ChemKnits, and I really hope you enjoyed this video. I love randomly combining colors in a pot, and it is really hard for me to sit and wait for results. Really hard, especially when I don't know exactly what's happening. But I love how this turned out. I think that this whole technique could be a little bit, quote, safer if you wanted to pick three colors when you know exactly what will happen when they mix. So if I was going to pick some, you know, a red, an orange, and maybe a yellow, some things like that. But you obviously don't have to. And picking things on opposite ends of the color wheel, I guess they're not technically opposites, but they're spread out, right? It still really, really worked. Let me know down in the comments if you want to see more of this and what colors I should combine. If you love the yarn that I dye, head over to the ChemKnits Creations Etsy shop. The yarn is filled with over 100 skeins of hand-dyed yarn featured in my videos. So you can re-watch me dye and create the colorways while you are turning the yarn into something fantastic, whether you knit, crochet, or weave. Again, you can find a link to the shop down in the video description, along with a lot of other helpful, useful links where you can find me on social media, some of my favorite tools and equipment, and things like that. Thank you so much for watching, everyone.